As we all know, today is definitely the day for the juggernaut conferences of E3, and we had a pretty long one from Ubisoft, about 2 hours actually. So without further ado, let's go through the rather lengthy things that they showed. They showed quite a lot, nothing hugely, revolutionary, but still some interesting things. They started off with a really hallucinogenic opening dance sequence thing for Just Dance 2017, which they said is going to be out this year on all platforms and then the NX next year. They did, however, were swift to move on to show some gameplay for Recon Wildlands, which looks really, really interesting. Definitely you can do sneaky versus non-sneaky, open world, solo up to 4 players, their largest open world apparently. And you have drones where you can sort of, fly around, look at the area, spot how many guards with their positions, and plan your route basically. It definitely seems like this game gives you a lot of options of how to approach a target and the objective, and if things go south, there's not an automatic fail. You can fight your way out of a situation or flee and still manage to complete the mission if, say, your target's fleeing, still chase them down and get them anyway, that sort of thing. So it seems like there's a lot of flexibility here for Recon Wildlands, and of course a lot of vehicles. We saw bikes, we saw cars obviously, and we saw helicopters, so it seems like there's a lot of sort of flexibility there for the player, which looks really cool. Next up we saw South Park, the Fractured But Whole. Obviously we learned last year that it's going to be superheroes this time around, but we also learned today that it's going to have different classes, so that would affect like what abilities you have and that sort of thing. And they also detailed a few changes and improvements to the combat. As you may remember, last time you had all your abilities and stuff, but you're pretty much rooted to the spot, traditional old school RPG style. But now we have a bit more mobility in combat. You can sort of move around to use the environment a bit more, be a bit more tactical with your positioning. You can use cover, you can push and pull enemies and they can do the same to you. And as I said, you can use the environment and you can also push the enemy into other players to get an extra hit in. And as I said, use the environment to perhaps, push them into a box or something. And you can also use an ability to rearrange the turn order and perhaps get it a bit more to your advantage if perhaps the enemy is about to use a devastating attack. Now what's really interesting is that they also said that if you buy the Fractured But Whole, you also get the Stick of Truth for free, which is pretty damn awesome, and they also revealed that it's going to be out December the 6th. So a fairly late release, but it seems they're timing it for after the huge October-November rush. Next up was The Division. Not a huge amount discussed here, just a couple of expansions. We already heard a little bit about the Underground in Microsoft's conference, where of course they revealed that it would be coming first to Xbox One. And we did get the further confirmation that yes, that's true. It's coming on June the 28th to PC and Windows 10, of course, and other PCs as well. And August 2nd for PS4. So a fairly lengthy wait for anyone still playing this game on PlayStation 4. They did, however, reveal that if you are part of the Ubisoft Club when the Underground is released, you'll get it free. You'll get some costumes free, rather. The Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon, and Rainbow Six outfits for free in The Division. They also talked about the survival expansion and showed a trailer, but it revealed nothing. Just, hey, we're going to survive and stuff. But, this game was already kind of having stuff like that. So, again, nothing really showed. Just, this is an expansion that exists. They did, however, show some gameplay for Eagle Flight, that VR game. Now, what they showed was a team-based capture the flag mode, where basically you got, obviously, 2 teams, and they're both trying to get to prey and take it back to their nest. And it looked really, really cool. Fairly basic sort of combat where you sort of fire at the other eagles, to, get them out of the air. You can obviously fly into them as well, take the prey from them and then take it back to your nest, and they can do the same thing to you. Looks really, really cool. No mention of any campaign or any other multiplayer modes. They only showed us the capture the flag mode, which looked interesting, and they also confirmed that it's going to be out for the Oculus and Vive this fall. So it looks pretty cool, and hopefully we get some more details on what exactly we can expect, but it seems like it's going to be multiplayer only. No mention of any campaign, but I could be wrong. Again, they didn't talk about it at all. What they did show, which looks so cool and made me feel like a kid again, to be honest, it was a Star Trek VR game called Star Trek Bridge Crew, and you literally are on the Enterprise and you can play with your friends. Obviously one of you is the captain, one of you is the engineer, that sort of thing. And it's so cool. You just imagine, like, you're on the Enterprise, you're talking with your friends over Skype, and you're acting as if, like, hey, yeah, we're piloting the Enterprise, man the torpedoes or whatever, that sort of thing. Obviously not torpedoes, but you get my point. It looks really, really cool and came out of left field for me, but it looks really interesting and I can't wait to play that. That's obviously multiplayer, but still looks so good. Speaking of so good, they also showed For Honor again. what they did reveal, which was actually unexpected but a pleasant surprise, is it will indeed have a campaign. They very much led us to believe last year that this would be a multiplayer only game, but no, it does have a full campaign that looks very, very cool. They showed it from the Viking perspective. Obviously we heard that it's going to have knights, samurais and Vikings as playable characters, each with their own weapons and different playstyles, of course. Now, there was no mention if there's a campaign for the other classes as well. They only showed us the Viking mode, but it still looks really, really cool. The combat, of course, looks intriguing as ever. The game looks gorgeous, and For Honor is undoubtedly one of the most interesting things to come out of not only Ubisoft's conference, but E3 as a whole so far. Of course, we still do have Sony and Nintendo's conference to go at the time of recording. So, obviously it may get beaten, and of course it is competing already with Scalebound, but For Honor looks really, really interesting, and is definitely one of my releases for next year, as they did also reveal that it will have a release date of the 2nd of February 2017. So on Valentine's Day, why not? Let's have a violent beat 'em up with Vikings and samurais. Sounds like a good way to celebrate Valentine's Day to me. For Honor is looking really, really good. I was going to play it anyway because it looked so interesting, but now as I know there's full single player, I am even more intrigued than I was before. We also learned that there's going to be a sequel to Grow Home called Grow Up, which looks really cool, as of course Grow Home was rather good. And of course, as you'd expect, they discussed Watch Dogs 2. Now what we did see was some more gameplay, which is always nice. Again, the theme of this year's E3 seems to be lots of gameplay, which I'm down with. If we can continue that theme, I would totally be cool with that, because I was getting pretty sick of like this really cinematic trailer that tells you nothing about the game. So it's really nice that we're actually getting some gameplay. And we saw that, yes, you do have quite a few non-lethal options. You seem to have more options in general, not only with your hacking abilities, you can hack more things in the environment, and you can also use drones to sort of not only spy on the enemy, but also use it as an extension for your hacking powers. So obviously if you fly the drone next to a thing, you can hack the thing through the drone, which looks really interesting and adds a bit more sort of flexibility to your play. And also you seem to be sort of running and climbing over the environment a bit more, using zip lines and that sort of thing, and just overall had a feeling in the trailer, of course, of more flexibility and just being a bit more sort of static than we had before. Now I'm being careful and advising you all to be careful with the hype train on this one, because as we all know, Watch Dogs was pretty disappointing. It wasn't a bad game, it actually had a lot of promise, but they overhyped it way too much and it crashed under the weight of its own hype when it wasn't like literally, showing you the face of God each time you booted it up. So let's avoid that this time, shall we? But I have to say, it looks really cool and I'm really interested. It's basically Mr. Robot the game, and I'm totally down for that, to be quite honest, as Mr. Robot's a great show, and hopefully this will be a good game. It looks intriguing. They also revealed that the PS4 guys are going to be getting early access to all the DLC. Thankfully not exclusive access, just early access, so I guess it's a step. It's a small step, but baby steps, Ubisoft, you can do it. And apparently it's also going to be a Watch Dogs movie, because of course there is. They showed us a new trailer for the Assassin's Creed film as well, but I'm going to watch it because I might as well, but I don't think anyone there was really there to see more Assassin's Creed movie footage. However, they didn't end on Watch Dogs 2, they dangled hope for Beyond Good and Evil 2 in front of us for just a second. When they didn't end on Watch Dogs 2, they ended on something else. But no, it wasn't Beyond Good and Evil 2, it was a new IP by the name of Steep. And this seems to be a multiplayer challenge-based sports game where you can choose between wingsuits, skiing, parachutes and snowboarding. There might be more than that, but that's what was shown to us. And you can basically go around this sort of open world mountain range. It's partially set in the Alps, and choose between these various activities. And they had something called Mountain View, where let's say you just completed a wingsuit activity, you can then use Mountain View to see what's around you and see that, oh, there's a skiing thing over there or a snowboarding thing over there. I'm going to do that and do some challenges with my friends and of course other players in the game. They also had things called drop zones, and it seems to be very challenge based, as you can watch replays of each trial that you do. And let's say that in the last trial you did a cool snowboarding thing where you did a really difficult jump. And let's say that you want to challenge your friends to beat your score on that jump. You can actually create a challenge on that and challenge your friends to it. So it definitely seems all about challenge. It's not only challenging yourself to do better, but also challenging other players. And as I said, creating your own challenges for your friends to complete based on what you've done. Which looks pretty cool, I have to say. Like, the graphics look pretty. Overall, it's not my game at all. It's a sports game, and it's multiplayer only. Two things that usually don't interest me. It looks pretty cool for what it is. The graphics are pretty. I was like, ooh, this looks nice, but it's not my thing. kind of thing, but it looks cool and will be out this December. No exact release date, sadly, but still, new IP from Ubisoft, always cool, and a sports game, no less, which is something I didn't really expect, to be quite honest. I don't think anyone did, but it looks cool. I guess if that's your thing, it might be interesting to you. Seems fairly versatile, but of course, this is a trailer meant to make the game look good, so yeah. Overall, though, a pretty good conference from Ubisoft, despite the fairly hallucinogenic start with the dancing animals and then the really weird turn into the homage to the horrible things that have happened over the weekend. But aside from that, yeah, it was a good conference, actually. Not as good as Bethesda's, sadly, but Bethesda is definitely winning it for the moment, for me at least. But I have to say, For Honor, definitely the best thing of their conference, and would be the best thing of E3 if it wasn't for Scalebound, so there we go. Overall, I enjoyed Ubisoft conference, even if it did seem to drag on a bit. 2 hours of Ubisoft was a bit more than my brain seemed to handle. I was like, by the end of it, I was just like, make it stop. Make it stop. But it's probably just like my cabin fever getting to me a little bit of doing E3 all day. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts and opinions as always, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.